Sunday afternoon game, which I won't go into too much because I didn't watch an absolute second of it. But Essendon versus Adelaide, 17-13, 115, played 15-7, 97. Here you go. Oh, Jabby boy, take it away. You can have fun. You can talk about this one.
I got plenty of notes, but Adelaide did really well to work themselves into the first quarter after the Bombers broke away really quickly early. We kicked a goal within the first minute of within the first 30 seconds of the game, and we were all over Adelaide early. So they did well to work themselves back into the game in that first quarter. Both teams had insane forward pressure. Like, their small forwards on both sides and the forward were absolutely menacing to defenders, and that's even commentators were saying that this game has completely forgotten what defending is all about. Fogarty and Thilthorpe, that's a fucking class key forward duo Crows have got there for the next 10 years. They look class. Both of them float in and out of games, but if Adelaide can get both them fit and firing, they're going to be something else. They both take good marks. They both kick straight. They're the perfect understudies to Tex, really. Tex for Coleman. He's now outright leader for the Coleman right now. At the end of that game, I'm not sure I'm not sure how Charlie's gone today.
Charlie is on 3 goals too.
Okay, Charlie's back in front for the Coleman. Personally, I don't really want to see Tex win the Coleman, but it would be a very
no one does.
Yeah, it would be a very good story.
The old man winning it would be fun.
Yeah. Other notes that I took from Essendon and Adelaide, both teams were struggling with fast ball movement. Whenever both teams switched it on and tried moving it from one end of the ground to the other, they both struggled. They're just trying to defend and trying to set up against it. They couldn't do it. Darcy the Butcher Parish, he needs to work on his disposal efficiency.
The Butcher.
Oh my
who's
god! The last 2 weeks watching him though, he when he's under no pressure, he'll cough it up and turn it over. If he's under pressure, he's more likely to hit a target, and it's still 50-50 at best there.
Has Merritt though with 39 disposals.
Merritt 39, Darcy 39, Nick Martin 2 goals and I think 20 odd. Ben Hobbs at half time, Dermot Brereton was saying that he's the future of Essendon's midfield as a midfield bull. And I entirely agree. The kid's 19, 27 games in now, and he looks absolute class in that midfield. 2 meter Peter is elite, and I love the man. Some of the shit he did today was he just did like a ruck tap to the forward pocket into a small forward who just ran into an open goal. It was just smart footy brain. Interesting stats at half time where we were up 10 in contested possessions, 74 in uncontested possessions. It was just like our spread of our players along our forward 50 defending when they were trying to rebound. It was just choking and stifling Adelaide entirely. They could not do much about it from there. I was still nervous at halftime when it got announced that Adelaide have never come back from a deficit this large. I was still nervous, was not confident. The intensity did drop off entirely though in the second half. Like both teams were not playing as fast and as fluent as they did in the first half. Bombers probably should have won by 4 goals to 8 goals, I'd say. But it was like we took our foot off the gas, and Adelaide capitalised that in the last 5-10 minutes, and I think kicked the last 3 goals of the game. I do reckon Melbourne should be worried about their place in the top 4 because the Vortex is well and truly alive, though, and they're asking to be sucked down into it. Heppel rolled back the years too in that second half. He looked class. Full time though, the things that really stood out to me was we were plus 17 contested possessions, plus 89 uncontested possessions, and with that plus 99 disposals. You don't lose games when you're doing shit like that.
Essendon beat Adelaide at their own game.
Yeah, exactly, and that was the talk going into it. Everyone was saying we were going to get smashed on contested ball and disposals. And we clearly worked on that throughout the week of training. And I really respect that. That's a very stark difference to what we have been doing over the last few years.
In Brad Scott, you trust.
Yeah, at this stage, yeah. Like I even said to my dad and my brother, this could be a Brad Scott special. You realize the king of 5-goal leads at 3/4 time and losing,
Or the king of finishing 8th spot and then challenging for a prelim.
exactly. We got this, right? Touch wood.
But just touching on Adelaide, you can't trust them away from home, and you can't trust them in the Vortex. They get hyped up as a top 4 smoky, or they're going to miss out on finals completely. There's no in between with Adelaide, especially with this Vortex going on. They're probably going to end up 7th or 8th at best, and they're going to have to win 4 away games in a row to make a grand final or to win a premiership. There's no way they're doing that unless they come up against Port Adelaide in week 2 or week 3 of finals. That's no.
Were Adelaide looking to go deep into the finals this year, though? I reckon that's that's already a check above what they expected for this season, though. So I reckon they'll take first week, second week's finals exit if they have to. So
I think they're performing well above where they thought they would be this year. I definitely think that. I think a lot of people still had them. Depends how you called it, because a lot of people had them. It's like you said, there's no in between. Like Mason had them in the 8, and we had them finishing, I think, in the bottom 5 potentially.
Yeah. I had them in the 9 to 12 range, just I think a step below finals. So if they make finals, it's a plus. If they fall just short, but the way they're playing though is it's top 4 worthy. But then of course they fail.
Their best is class. Best is amazing.
Yeah. So it's going to be very iffy how they end up this season. They finished 9th. I don't think they'd accept that, but they've set up their list long term anyway for it. And they probably will get a few decent trade-ins as well come season's end. Mason Redmond kicking just a magnificent goal to start the game.
Oh, that was
very good. It was a very good goal against his future side.
Fuck you. I've heard a couple rumors about him going back to Adelaide, but at the same time, he was the first person to come out and say it's not a go home factor. I'm 4 hours from Adelaide and I'm 5 hours from Melbourne. It doesn't really bloody bother me. It's for money if he goes back, and I'll accept that because he was honest about it. One last line on this game: umpires still can't work out the stand rule. They'll tell a player to take 2 meters back, to move 2 meters back, and the player will just stand there. They'll say it a few times, and the ball will get kicked, and they won't pay the 50 meters because the player didn't move 2 meters back. And then they'll pluck one later on in the game where they said, "I told you to stand, and you didn't stand." It's like they've got to be more consistent, they've either got to be more consistent or more lenient on that stand rule because it's not working right now. With it, the fact that every team has frustrations with the stand rule because every second week a team will have something go against them for it. Means that it needs to either be stamped out the entire rule or it just needs to be more crystal clear about when to pay it. Very frustrating watching that happen a few times.
So I think it gave Adelaide 2 goals in that final quarter from that. The one Andrew Phillips, and I think it was off the halfback flank, but Adelaide did get a goal a few minutes later.
That was the one that bothered, because I watched 2 or 3 times early in the game where our players didn't move back 2 meters off the mark, and the umpire was like, "Oh, that's play." I'm like, "Why don't pay 50 there?" And then later on the game they did. And it was, you got to be, it's better not to confuse us because otherwise that's what makes fans annoyed.